Welcome everybody, my name is Michael and today we're discussing about inflation, where people are with their portfolios and salaries. Unfortunately, a lot of people cannot invest into cryptocurrency or stocks or actually anything. The reason for this being they don't have money anymore. What they were making before is just not enough this year. And some are actually making posts that they are selling their cryptocurrency despite it going up and actually having a lot of potential for this year. They are forced to sell. The reason they're forced to sell is because they ran out of money. They need to have money for bills. Gas prices went up. Food has gone up, rent has gone up, the prices of houses and cars. If you crashed your car, you totaled your car, you need to get a new one. You can't wait for next year or 2 years from now because you need a car to get to work. So there's a lot of things in effect. And with that, cryptocurrency, guys, this is all about economics. This is the primary reason why markets collapse. It's due to inflation. Eventually, after many years of inflation and as it's growing, people are forced to stop investing. And in many cases, later on, they're forced to sell their belongings and their investments, which obviously creates a good selling pressure, which for 99% of people, unless you're shorting, the markets will fall and you're going to lose a lot of money. You're going to lose opportunities. Businesses are going to have to shutter their doors. And when we take a look at how inflation has risen over the past year, the Consumer Price Index provides year-over-year changes. Now, overall, for the past year, as of March 10th, 2022, they have inspected pretty much everything that was going on, from rent prices to gas to food to energy to just normal consumer goods. And the average consumer price index over the past decade has been well below 4%. On average, people would say, inflation's 2-3%. Some people wouldn't trust that, and they'd say, hey, it's 4, 5, 6%. It was negative inflation, technically, because of the recession more than a decade ago. But before that, there were very few moments in history where the consumer price index was above 5 or 6%. Now, most of these were during harsh times, such as in the 1970s or in the 1980s, Black Friday, in the 1970s with rising gas prices and OPEC and wars and whatnot, and in the 1990s, the Gulf War. So there were certain events that have caused crazy inflation, like back in the 1980s, early 1980s, it went up well past 14%. And then in the 1970s, it was jumping from 6% down to 2% to 3%, and then back up to almost 12%. So over the past decade, though, that's what's most important. It's been a pretty gradually good time, increasing gradually, where the Dow Jones stock market, everything, the house prices have been going up year on year. And then you have COVID, you have the pandemic, and suddenly people don't know what's going to happen. Is this going to be another recession? And you had a lot of government help. You had stimulus checks and whatnot coming out, and PPI and debt relief programs. And now the world is wondering, what are the next steps as we're going out of the pandemic? So with 2022, at least for America, and obviously the whole world is being impacted by this, but for America, this has risen from 2, 3, 4% to suddenly almost 8%, 7.9% as of the past year. And then if you exclude food and energy, that's 6.4%, which is a giant leap. I mean, it's going like this and then suddenly like that. It was actually the fastest pace of annual inflation. I mean, it was like just straight up a mountain over the past 40 years. So in the 1970s and 1980s, you had many years where it was gradually increasing. You went from 8%, 10%, 12, 14. But here, suddenly from 2, 3, 4% to almost double that, it is absolutely unprecedented. And really, it happened within a month or two. With war breaking out and gas prices, the average price for a gallon of gas was $4.32. That was as of a couple of weeks ago, and it went up even further than that. There were certain places where it was past $7, so that's still not good. And in many places around here, it is well past $4.50 $4.50, $5, you're easily able to see that. If you're paying premium, it's going to get pretty high up there. So gas is one thing. You had the price of rent. You had the price of food. These are very important things for the average person out there. You're trying to live your life, and you're not even thinking about investments anymore because, first of all, in order to get to work with rising prices of gas, these are the largest changes over the past couple of years, where suddenly you had a almost 60% increase in gas over the past year, and then also a massive 60%, 50 to 60% increase in 2021 from the year before, from 2020 prior. Again, due to the pandemic and with everything where it's been going. I mean, not too long ago, remember gas prices well below $3, maybe even $2.50. So with inflation steadfast growing, a lot of people are just living paycheck to paycheck right now. And if anybody's making well below poverty levels in high cost of living areas such as New York, Washington, California, you see a huge influx of movement. And they're moving to other states, and suddenly that's driving up house prices as well outside of these high cost of living areas. Now suddenly everywhere across the country, the house prices are booming, rent prices are booming. People can't even just enjoy a nice relaxing drive anymore or eat out at restaurants because they don't have confidence in what's going on. They are panicking because they aren't able to pay the bills for rent or for energy or for next month, anything. They're forgetting about gifts. The economy is suffering from this. So despite plentiful jobs, there's a ton of jobs out there, and the rising wages, so it's finally starting to pick up. Consumer confidence itself has fallen to its lowest level since the summer of 2011, when the economy was still kind of, rising back up from its ashes after what happened with the global financial crisis. So when we take a look at food and rent, all of these combined, there was almost a 9%, 8.6% change over the past year, with the rent prices rising around 4.2%, and then food by itself is well above that, which again, if you're going to the grocery store, you're spending $100. Last year, suddenly you're spending $105, $104, $106 for the same exact groceries. And that is going to continue to grow year on year, where eventually, if you look at what you were buying 10 years ago, you have a lot less stuff in your grocery cart. So with this, if you're making 15 to 20 bucks an hour and you can't afford to pay for various bills, you're definitely not going to be investing, and especially in something that can be seen as potentially risky right now. You're definitely not going to be purchasing gifts. You're not going to be traveling. You're not going to be spending money for the economy. And with this, eventually, if there's enough pressure, we might fall into a crash where all these house prices will crash, the prices of cars will crash, used cars. There's a lot of people that don't want to purchase a used or new car right now because it just doesn't make simply sense. They'd rather hang on to what they have. Now, one crisis away from an emergency or a bankruptcy, a lot of Americans are choosing not to invest right now, and things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. But eventually we should see, hopefully, rising wages. And with whatever's going on with cryptocurrency, if you have anything invested right now, depending on how long this all takes, if the markets continue to crash with cryptocurrency, there is a chance that it's going to rise above everything else, because that's what crypto is all about. It's actually surviving through these wars, through these economic crashes. So we'll see what it has to offer. And hopefully let's not freak out. All right. So with the rising inflation, there will definitely be a lot less investments going on. If there's a lot less investments, the markets eventually collapse on themselves. So thanks so much for watching today's video. Have a great rest of your day and enjoy yourself.